All right, welcome back. We continue live right here on Pittsburgh CW. Bob Pompeani with you. Call us on that Bordas and Bordas number. You see it right there on your screen at 412-575-2600. We'll also be on the air after the Steelers and the Chiefs on Pittsburgh CW for 2 hours after the game on Sunday. So if you'd like to call us then with your hot takes right on the game, let us know what you think. Right now, let's go to the lines. We'll begin with line 2. That's Tony in the North Hills. Hey, Tony, how are you?
Hey, what's up, Bob? I was calling because I had a question on Bud Dupree, and if the pressure that he is producing on his side is it contributing to T.J. Watt's success. He does have a lot of pressure. He doesn't happen to get the bag.
Yeah, I do. He's good about getting around. The only thing I thought, sometimes he takes a big circuitous route, and it takes him a long time. And then once he gets way beyond the quarterback, he doesn't necessarily complete the play. And I think if you're going to do that, you got to blows. But I think both those guys are benefiting from that position switch. T.J. Watt is very comfortable where he was. I think both guys are going to have good years. At least I hope so. That's the whole plan going in. They have to have pressure from the outside. Also pressure inside if they can get it, and their defensive linemen are pretty good in that department too. So all of that should help the secondary in time, even though Joe Hayden won't play this week. Bob in Indiana, what's up?
Good. Hey, thanks for taking the call, Bob. Hey, you touched on two things. One was a Polanco injury. I heard he's going to be out up possibly 9 months. Do you think they'll resign Dickerson and put Frazier in the outfield to replace him till he comes back? And the other thing you said about Archer, he has been awful, but all the pitchers in general have been awful as far as pass balls, wild pitches. I've never seen so many, pitches in the dirt, over the head, just all over. What do you think the problem is that these pitchers just can't find the strike zone?
Well, he hasn't been that good, really, based on what I think people expect of Chris Archer, even all the way through last year. So he needs to get it together and bring what made him the Chris Archer that everyone seemed to have wanted over the last couple of years. And Tampa Bay would not trade him for a while. But now they did. They got a pretty good package in return with Glasnow and Meadows and Shane Baz. So they're pretty happy about that trade. Keep in mind, by the way, Tampa Bay is, I think, 16 games over 500. They're playing really well. The only problem with them is they're in the American League East, where you have no chance because Boston and the Yankees are running away with everything. So I think that they're going to like that trade moving forward, especially if Glasnow can do what he's shown down there, something he did not show here on a regular basis. My only criticism of the Pirates with Glasnow is they didn't give him more of a chance to start. I know he failed when he had the last opportunity. They put him in the bullpen. I still would have put him back in that rotation and see what he could do. He's only 23 years old, I think, so he still has a lot of potential and a lot of elite ability. He just has to put it together, and maybe the change of scenery will help him. So we'll see. But thank you very much for the call. Appreciate that. And as far as Archer's control, it's just you got to be more efficient. You can't have 100 pitches. He had 88 as they were, and he hadn't had any outs yet in the fifth inning. So essentially 4 innings, 88 pitches. That's way too many. Andrew in Castle Shannon is up. Hey, Andrew, how are you?
Hey, Bob, how are you?
Good, thanks for calling.
Good. Any problem at all with Joe Hayden playing special teams? I mean,
yes.
If he's your number one cornerback,
I don't like that.
Is he playing special teams? And if that's the play you got hurt on, seriously, what is the coaching staff thinking with that?
Well, that's one of the reasons why they don't put Antonio Brown or, at times Juju out there in special teams roles. It's one of the reasons why they really like to bring in Switzer to handle that, so they didn't feel the pressure or the need to do it. But, yeah, I mean, a guy like that, he's been around for a long time, and I'm not sure that's where he got hurt, but if he got hurt, then they're probably scratching their heads saying, what are we doing with that? But Joe Hayden is a big part of this team, not in special teams. If they don't have anyone else to do that, then they got to figure out a way to bring it in without using him in that role. Let's go to Rick, Newcastle. Hey, Rick, how are you?
Good.
Good. What's up?
I was calling about Le'Veon.
Okay.
How the Steelers stood by him through 2 suspension years.
They did.
But he ain't giving them no credit for that.
No, I mean, okay, what's your point? You don't think they should stand by him now?
No, because But I had one other question about Richie and Paul Zeiss. They don't take no phone calls.
Well,
every time they're on together, they don't take no phone calls.
Right. Well,
all they do is talk.
I'm appreciative of your call, so if you want to call me anytime. I'll put you on, but I didn't understand your first question. I think you were trying to say because the Steelers stood by Le'Veon Bell, that he should owe them something in terms of coming in. Listen, it's a business the way it goes. I think Le'Veon Bell still is a guy who is a risky sign down the road, whoever decides to do it, because number one, you know, he's not a young 21-year-old, 22-year-old running back. Number two, he is through 2 of these suspensions, and 1 more. He's going to be out for a long period of time, and that won't work well for the team that signed him. So, you know, my own take on this is I thought Le'Veon Bell should have been here. Just play it out. Try to win now. And I understand you're going to get the ball a lot, but that's one of the reasons why you are who you are, because you can handle it a lot, and it makes you a different athlete. If you didn't get a lot and they had a running back by committee, chances are he wouldn't like that situation as well. So it's a lot of money he's passing up, $853,000 a week. Let's go out to John in Winburn. What's up, John? How are you?
Hey, Bob. How's it going?
Good. Thank you for calling. Hope you have a nice weekend.
Oh, yeah, thank you. You also.
Thanks.
Bob, I just wanted to say that I know I wanted to talk about the Browns game, and I know that's kind of old, but I was listening and I heard Tomlin say that we didn't make enough plays to win. I mean, how many plays do you have to make when your quarterback has 5 turnovers by himself? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that's the problem. You can't have that many in a game like that, and I thought 2 of those weren't necessarily his fault. I thought the one that Jesse James went through his hand, the other one was to Antonio Brown, and there was a miscommunication. I'm not sure whose responsibility that was, but and on the one that he got hit and he suffered the elbow injury, as he released the ball came flying out, resulted in another interception. That's part of the high-risk game of playing quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, but I mean, Bob, when he had that fumble there, and he, instead of just jumping on the ball, and so the Cleveland wouldn't get the ball back, he could have retained possession, he decided to pick it up and to still stay in there and get hit again and fumble, you know what I mean? And that was a turnover. And I think I mean, what would be the harm of putting Dobbs in there for one play, just to add another dimension to
Well, they may do that eventually, but they're not going to do it right now. And that's not the reason they lost. In my opinion, the reason they lost was James Conner's fumble. That turned the tide.
I think you guys are putting too much blame on Conner.
I'm not putting blame. I'm just saying that is the turning point of the game. Would you not agree?
Well, it was a big thing, but the 5 turnovers was a big thing too, Bob.
It's all big. I understand that. But I think when you're up by that much and 7 minutes left, you have possession. Worst case scenario, too, all you got to do is run it 3 times and punt it. You'll kill 2 minutes. They'll get the ball. They won't have any momentum, and they're down still, 14-3, whatever the score was at the time. So, you know, the bottom line is they made mistakes, too many of them, and you're never going to win. I'm surprised if you're going to flip it around the other way. How about if you're Cleveland and you're a +5? Typically, teams that go +5 in the turnover department win 98% of the games. They're one of the teams that did not. They tied, but you know what I mean. Thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Ed is coming up right now. Let's go to Cook Forest, one of my favorite places growing up. What's up, Ed? How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Bob. How about yourself?
I'm fine. Thanks for calling.
Yes. Hey, so how long do you think the Steelers are going to hang on to Bell, man? I mean,
after this year, it's over.
But, I mean, do you think there's any chance that they're going to get rid of him?
No.
Like, just cut nothing at all. No chance at all.
0 chance. That's my opinion.
What do you expect, though? I mean, you're going to cut him. You get rid of some money. You know, he's a cancer in the locker room. Do you really?
No, I don't think it goes that far. I honestly think, you know, they're hoping that when he comes in, he'll be fresh. Let's look at it this way. If he comes in when he's supposed to come in, which should be week 9, week 10, that should be a fresh running back who should be able to handle a lot of workload. Hopefully at that point they're not in bad situation within the division. If they're not, it's like bringing in a world-class running back to add to your offense, which by then already has done well. But this schedule's not as easy as it appears to be or some people think, so I think that's for the call. We got to go to a break. David and Pete, you're coming up next. You're watching the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call right here live on Pittsburgh CW.